Hello, grade 7. Today we will be doing your chapter number 14, which is natural environment, atmosphere, the realm of air. So air is essential for all forms of life. Without air, the earth would have been a lifeless planet. The earth is by far the only planet in the solar system where life is found. A protective layer of gases surrounding the earth is known as atmosphere, which makes life possible on the earth. The atmosphere stretches above the earth to the height of approximately 10,000 kilometers. Through the effective atmosphere lies up to some of 500 kilometers and then merges into the outer space. The atmosphere is held by gravity. Now, what is the composition of atmosphere? Atmosphere has a lot of gases. It's a mixture of gases, but there are four main gases which are present in the atmosphere. And there are four major gases. The number one is nitrogen, which is in the huge quantity, which consists of 78% of the atmosphere. Then comes oxygen, consists of 20.9%, then argon and carbon dioxide. There are other gases also, but they are in very less quantity. For example, these. Nitrogen is most abundant gas in the atmosphere, occupying 78% of the total volume of gases. It's very useful for survival of plants. Plants receive nitrogen indirectly, that is, through bacteria living in the soils and their roots, which take nitrogen from air and changes its form. Oxygen ranks as second most plentiful gas in the atmosphere and forming about 20.9% of the total volume of air. It is essential for surviving of animals, including human beings. Green plants also produce oxygen during the process of photosynthesis. Oxygen is a stable gas in the atmosphere. Deforestation, however, disturbs the ecological balance in nature. Why? Because if you keep on deforesting, cutting trees and everything, they are the one who absorb the CO2. But if you keep on cutting the forest, who will absorb the CO2? Because we always exhale CO2. So CO2 is carbon dioxide. It forms only 0.03% of the total volume of air in the atmosphere. It is, however, useful for green plants to make their food. Human and animals exhale carbon dioxide, which is used by plants. Thus, there exists a perfect balance of carbon dioxide in nature. But this has been upset by the men. Why? Because we are burning the trees, we are burning fossil fuels, we are actually exploiting what has been given to us. And that is why we are suffering from the problem of global warming. The increase in the volume of carbon dioxide in the air raises temperature on surface. And that is why we suffer from global warming. It has adversely affected the earth weather and climate. Now these gases and neon, helium, krypton, argon, hydrogen and ozone are the other gases of the atmosphere. Though present in very small quantities only, ozone gas is very important for us. Why? Because it protects us from what? Ultraviolet rays of the sun, which are very harmful. It acts like an umbrella and protects life on Earth. Water vapor is also present in the atmosphere in small quantities. It plays a very important role in climate due to its presence only. We get rainfall and snowfall. Now, this is the structure of atmosphere. It has four vertical layers. This is troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere. So this troposphere is the lowest layer. It contains 90% of the total mass of the atmosphere. And if you talk about the poles, it is till the height of 8 kilometers. And if you talk about the normal place, it's the height is 18 kilometers. So there is a constant vertical decrease in the temperature in this particular layer. And this is the turbulent zone, which contains a lot of dust, water vapor, and clouds. All weather phenomena like formation of clouds, blowing of winds, thundering, etc. happens to be here. Now the second layer is stratosphere, where so this is above this troposphere here, between tropopause and stratopause. In this layer, normally fall of air temperature with increased height abruptly. Strong and persistent winds known as jet streams blow in stratosphere from west to east. There is very little water vapor and dust. That is why planes usually use this stratosphere. This layer contains ozone gas which absorbs solar ultraviolet rays and thus shield earthly life from the intense harmful forms of solar energy. Now this is mesosphere, lies between stratosphere and thermosphere. It lies between 50 to 80 kilometers above the Earth's surface. In the mesosphere, temperature falls with elevation. Thermosphere occurs 80 kilometers above the Earth's surface and temperature increases with the height here. This is the kilometers given here. Beyond thermosphere, the atmosphere has become very thin and gradually merges with the solar atmosphere. Now, what are the elements of weather and climate? The term weather denotes the atmospheric conditions at a particular time and place. See, weather and climate both are different. You must have learned this in your 5th or 6th grade, most probably in grade 5. It includes temperature, air pressure, moisture, precipitation, wind conditions of sky. And the climate of a place also include this, but for a longer period of time. In other words, climate is the average of weather condition at a particular place. Meteorology is the science that scientifically studies weather conditions. What is heating of the atmosphere? The sun is the chief source of heat and light of the earth. The earth receives only a small fraction of the huge energy radiated from the sun. The solar energy received at the earth's surface is called insolation. Insolation reaching the earth is chiefly responsible for heating the earth's surface. Though the sun rays pass through the atmosphere before reaching the earth's surface, the heat of the atmosphere only slightly. It is mainly heated by the radiation from the earth. Now, temperature and atmospheric pressure. Temperature is the amount of heat measured in Celsius or Fahrenheit. You already know this. It varies both vertically and horizontally. So if we talk about horizontally, it has three major factors. Latitude of the place, altitude of the place. Altitude means height. Latitude means longitude, latitude. You must have learned in your 5th grade. The distance of a place from the sea. The temperature of a place depends on the amount of insolation it receives. The maximum insolation is received in the equatorial region. Why? Because the direct rays of sun comes there. So as it moves towards the pole, the temperature decreases. And the altitude of the place also affects its temperature. The temperature decreases by about 1 degree with an ascent of every 165 meters. Places near the sea generally have moderate temperatures. In coastal areas, summers are not too hot and winters are not too cold. The difference between summer and winter temperature as well as the day and night temperature in coastal areas is relatively less than in the areas located in the interior part. Why? Because water takes longer time to get heated and to cool down the land. Like what happens here in the coastal areas, we have water, so it takes longer time to heat up and to cool down than the land does. Because air has weight, it exerts pressure on the earth's surface. Atmospheric pressure is measured by the instrument called barometer. The maximum pressure is found near the earth's surface at the sea level. It decreases as we go up because air becomes lighter in pressure. Atmospheric pressure varies horizontally too. There is a close inverse relationship between temperature and pressure of air at a given place. Warm air, being light, exerts less pressure, while cold air, it exerts more pressure. We'll talk about winds now. The difference in air pressure causes movement of air. Air moves vertically as well as horizontally. Now, there are different types of winds also. Planetary winds. So, wind blows from high pressure area to the low pressure area are called planetary winds. The direction of these winds are influenced by the rotation of the earth. They deflect towards the right in the northern hemisphere and towards the left in the southern hemisphere. The deflection is called Coriolis Effect. Now, wind vane is used to know the direction of the winds and anemometer is used to measure its speed. Now, there are three types of planetary winds: trade winds, westerlies, and polar winds. We have the examples also here. Now, as their name suggests, polar winds, they are very cold and they blow near to the frigid zones only, here polar regions only, and they are extremely cold and dry. If we'll talk about these westerlies, they blow near the temperate zone. They are also known as anti-trade winds because they blow in the opposite direction of the trade winds in both the hemispheres, and they causes rain. Now, if we'll talk about these trade winds, they blow in the tropics of the northeast and in the northern hemisphere, and southeast in the southern hemisphere. These winds blow in a fixed direction with a great regularity. What are local winds? Apart from the planetary winds, there are winds that affect small area for a short period of time. These are known as local winds. Some local winds are periodic, that is, they blow in a particular direction for a fixed period, that is a day or a season. They do not blow in the same direction. Land and sea breeze and monsoon are periodic winds. Now, what is sea and land breeze? So there are two different breezes, sea breeze and land breeze. Totally opposite to each other. Listen to me carefully. During the day, the land becomes hotter than the sea, right? Why? Because sun is there. The air above the land also becomes hotter. So when the air becomes hotter, it rises because it lights up. The sea is cooler at that time because water takes more time to get heated up. As such, cool and moist air moves from the sea to the land, and this is called sea breeze. At night, what happens? Land cools down much faster than as compared to sea. So the air over the sea being warmer and it lightens up and rises up. So air from the land blows to the sea. So this is called land breeze. Simple. Now monsoon. The monsoon is a seasonal wind blowing in a fixed direction during a particular season. It reverses its direction with the change of seasons. Monsoon develop due to great contrast in land and sea temperatures. These winds are regarded as land and sea breezes on a large scale. In India, we experience monsoon winds that cause rainfall when they blow from the adjacent seas. The monsoon affects not only our climate but also agriculture and other activities. Now, there are different types of winds. Variable winds. Planetary winds we read, now variable winds. These winds are irregular and of short duration. They keep on changing their direction. Winds associated with cyclones and anticyclone are called variable winds. Now, first we'll talk about cyclone winds and then we'll talk about anticyclone winds. They are the winds of low pressure at the center surrounded by high pressure outside. The winds in a cyclone blow from outside towards the center in anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and in clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. The speedy winds are associated with thundering clouds and rain. They cause much loss of life and property in the coastal areas. Cyclones are called by different names locally. They originate in sea and ocean and march towards the land. In Indian Ocean, they are known as cyclones. In the China Sea, they are called typhoons. They are hurricanes, willy wills, etc. They play havoc with human life and property of the southern east coast in India. Tamil Nadu, AP, Odisha often became their victims. The super cyclone of Odisha in 1999 claimed 15,000 lives. So these are the examples which have been given of the previous cyclones which we have experienced. Now, what are anticyclones? It is a system of high pressure in the center surrounded by a low pressure outside. As such, the winds blow out from the center in all the directions. They blow in clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Clear and fine weather is associated with these winds and they bring no rain. Now we'll talk about atmospheric humidity. The water vapor present in the atmosphere is known as atmospheric humidity. Water bodies such as oceans, seas, and are the other major sources of water vapor in the air. The amount of water vapor in the atmosphere varies from one place to another and from time to time. It is lesser over land than over the sea. It is the greatest over the equatorial region than over the polar region. It increases in summer and decreases in winters. Although present in the atmosphere in very small quantity, water vapor plays an important role in regulating the temperature and causing changes in the weather. Now, what is evaporation? Water can change from one form to another, we already know. The process by which water, when it is in liquid form, changes into the gaseous form is known as evaporation. It's a continuous process, but the atmosphere cannot hold endless amount of water vapor. So when the air contains as much as water vapor it can hold at a given temperature, it is called saturated. The capacity of the air to hold water vapor increases when the temperature rises and decreases when the temperature falls. Thus, warm air holds more water vapor than the cold air. What is condensation? Condensation. The capacity of the air to hold water vapor decreases with the fall in its temperature. The temperature at which the air gets saturated with the amount of water vapor it is carrying, it is called dew point. So when the temperature of saturated air falls below the dew point, the air cannot retain all the moisture in it. The excess water vapor then gets converted into tiny droplet of water. This process is called condensation. And this leads to the formation of clouds, fog, dew, and frost. Now, what is precipitation? When the minute water droplet, when the minute water droplet or ice crystals in clouds join together into big drops that are too heavy to float, they start falling on the Earth's surface. This is called precipitation. It can be in the form of rain, snow, hail, or sleet. Clouds have millions of tiny droplets of water. These tiny droplets stick together to form larger droplets. They grow in size until they become too heavy to float. Then they start falling on the ground as rain. When condensation takes place at a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius or less, the excess water vapor forms minute crystals of ice. These crystals grow in size, and when they become heavy, they fall on the ground as flakes of snow. Now, there are types of rainfall also: convectional, relief, or cyclonic. What is conventional? It occurs throughout the year in the equatorial region. During the day, the land gets heated. We have already read it. The warm air rises. We know this. Cooler air from above sinks. Thus, a conventional air current is set up. This rainfall occurs toward the afternoon or in evening. It is often accompanied by thunder and lightning. What is relief rainfall? It occurs when a mountain range lies in the path of the rain-bearing winds. The warm and moist air is forced to rise along. See, the warm and moisture is forced to rise above the slope, rise along the slope of the mountain and cause heavy rainfall here. And this side is called windward side. And here in the leeward side, there is no rainfall or less rainfall. So this is the rain shadow area. In India, we experience this orographic type of rainfall associated with monsoons. Now, what is cyclonic rainfall? It is a frontal rainfall. It is associated with temperate cyclones. It is very common in the middle latitudes. It's very important for the survival of plants. Now, if we'll talk about rainfall, rainfall is very important for survival of plants and animals. Scarcity, if we'll face sometimes, so what we will face? Droughts, excessive, and if there are excessive of rainfall, so we'll experience flood. So the amount of rainfall is measured by an instrument called rain gauge. This is all about this chapter. Very interesting chapter. Go through it, read it once again. Very nice chapter. All right. Thank you so much, grade 7.